All right, are you ready for this? Number one, we are not answering the question of how to make a vegetable chartreuse because no one ever has this question and no one ever has had to make one before. I'm sure that not a single viewer of this particular video has ever seen or made, and in many cases even heard of, a chartreuse. Let me give you a quick history of what this means. Chartreuse, dating back about 250 years in French cooking, used to be the definition of different types of things that were molded with multiple colors, okay? There were a lot of wild game chartreuses with vegetables at that time. And today's chartreuse, which is, chartreuse of course means that exotic coloring to begin with, you know, green, yellow, and orange, will be made with vegetables, green beans, carrots, and it's going to be a decorative mold that we're going to make in a 2-quart souffle mold. Now, one of the things about the 2-quart souffle mold that's important is that it's not tapered. And from time to time, if you look in the marketplace, you'll find that these bowls are slightly tapered off to the, shooting off outside of the bottom a little bit, and you don't want those. The other thing you don't want is a mold that has an indentation anywhere in the bottom of the mold. So you want this mold to be flush and flat, and a 2-quart mold, which is what this is what's required for this particular recipe. Now, one can make a miniature chartreuse in a smaller mold if they want, but they would have to change the accommodation of some of the vegetable cutting, etc., and so on, okay? But we're going to show you how to make a really nice one that would be especially good for a vegetarian special event or like a holiday. You might want to make something like this for Thanksgiving if you have a lot of people over and you want to impress them with how, quote, artistic your cooking can be. Because this, as you will see, as we unmold this, as we bake this, as we assemble this, as we cut, cook, blanch, season all the vegetables and assemble them into this mold, that this is a very special and interesting dish to look at and both make. There is a little bit of time involved in making this item. I would probably schedule for you in total an hour to an hour and a half of prep time for the vegetables and assembling them, okay? What we're going to do here is we're going to butter the mold. We're going to line the mold with peas on the bottom. We're going to put a layer of spiral squash. We're going to put cabbage. We're going to put mashed potatoes. We're going to put Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and we're going to reload this and season this and reload it and season it until it's all full. Then we're going to put it in the fridge, let it get cold, and then when we're ready to serve it, we just take it out and pop it in the oven. And we're going to get to that point, and then we're going to get to the unmolding of it and show you just how perfect and simple the item can be. So we're going to begin by going over, I want to go over the vegetable selections with you, particularly the green beans and the carrots, which need to be a specific size. You are looking for green beans that look like this. And obviously they have to fit, not obviously at this point, but it will be obvious to you soon, that they have to be able to fit over the top of this mold. And the carrots have to be cut so that they look something similar to the size of the green beans, you see? So I have all these carrot sticks that I made out of peeled carrots. And let me have a carrot, please, Louis, so I can demonstrate how that's done. But I'll do that while this stuff is blanching here. But for now, let's just get a carrot here. All right. So I have boiling salted water back here going in all these pots. And we're going to blanch all the stuff that we have. And I have ice waters all set up over here so we can shock the vegetables in the ice water, which would be like a standard blanching procedure, okay, also for the vegetables. And you'll see that, of course, in the vegetable class, which we cover that extensively, which I believe is DVG number 4. All right, so I got some cauliflower florets here, and we're going to drop them in boiling water back here. And we're going to drop our green beans, and then we have to clean all the green beans after we blanch them. So we blanch them whole before we clean them. We'll drop the green beans in a big pot over there. And we will drop the Brussels sprouts in another big pot over here. And we will drop the carrot sticks into another one here. I seem to have lost one there. That's okay. And we have zucchini and yellow squash here, which I will need to show you how to cut. But first, before we get to that point with the zucchini and the yellow squash, I'm going to go to the buttering of the mold and the positioning of the peas in the mold, okay? So, when I say to heavily butter the mold, I mean that you almost cannot have too much butter in this mold, okay? You don't want your stuff getting stuck, your vegetables getting stuck when you go to turn this mold out onto your serving tray. It's good to keep a sweat rag around, you know? All righty. That's about as much butter as I can get in there, all right? Now, what I want you to do is 1 pea at a time or 2 peas at a time. Set your peas in the mold along the perimeter, okay? And we're going to time-elapse this right now. I'm going to fill this all up with peas, and we'll be right back when I get this done. So you don't have to stand here and watch me fill this mold up with peas, okay? All right, I have all the peas inside the mold. About 5 minutes has elapsed. I've had some water and washed my hands for a second. Now the carrots and the green beans are done blanching right now. They're still in the water though, but we're going to get them out of the water, the hot water, and we're going to put them in the ice water. Same thing with the green beans. This shocking of the ice water, in the ice water, stops the cooking process and keeps your vegetables green. And the cauliflower is also done. The Brussels sprouts are not done, and we'll let them cook a little longer. Meanwhile, you and I will talk about the completion of this bowl and the few cabbage leaves that we have to blanch. And I want to show you how to clean the cabbage to get the leaves that you want out of it, okay? We're done with the peas now. There we go. All right. I would cut this out a little bit first. Just enough so you can peel back a few leaves. Now when you're peeling cabbage leaves, sometimes you want to start at this side to avoid them from breaking. Or you want to do a combination, loosen a little bit here, loosen a little bit there, loosen a little bit here, loosen a little bit there from the top to the bottom so you can get the leaf off in one piece. It isn't essential for this particular recipe that you get it off in one piece, but sometimes if you're making stuffed cabbage it might be, because this would be kind of the same process for making stuffed cabbage leaves. Taking off the leaves and then individually blanching them. So we're going to take these few leaves that we have here and we'll drop them in boiling water also. We'll cook them while we're playing around with this mold and I'm showing you how to put this thing together. By the way, if you have the energy and the time and you want to do something really special for somebody that you like to make food for, this is one of those items to do, and I tell you, they will be impressed. And you will be too when you see the end of this video and you see how this dish comes out. Now, let's just get those leaves below the surface of the water, and that'll be all right. Now, here's the trick with the green beans and the carrots in terms of assembling them into the mold. And we're going to time elapse this, of course, so you don't have to sit here and watch me do this. And on the green beans now, we're going to just cut one end off of them and make it flat, okay? There's a couple. And there's another one. 1, 2, 3. I think 5 will be enough to get me started to show you how to line the mold. Okay? Now, the vegetable has to be properly blanched so that it has some flexibility like this carrot has, okay? So we're going to start by setting a carrot up inside here. Then we're going to put a green bean next to that carrot. Then we're going to put carrot. Then we're going to put another green bean. We'll put just a touch more butter in here. And I'm going to put another carrot. I'm going to put another green bean. I'm going to put another carrot. This one's a little heavy. Another carrot. Another green bean. Another carrot. And another green bean. Now we're going to time elapse this. When you come back, I'm going to have this all full of green beans and carrots, and we will have taken the blanched leaves and the Brussels sprouts out of there and shocked them in the ice water also. So we'll be back in a few minutes, the length of time it takes me to get this completed, all right? We're rocking here. Now what I did was I completed placing all the carrots. Oop, but the problem is I can't lean it down for you to see too well, but I think you've got a pretty good idea here. You got the peas in the bottom, and all the carrots and the green beans all the way around. Now, I put it in the fridge for a second just to get the butter to solidify because it's so soft, the stuff is falling off if I try to tilt it to show it to you. But anyway, there we go. Now, and I took all of the Brussels sprouts, and the big ones I quartered, and the medium-sized ones I cut in half because you don't want whole Brussels sprouts inside there. You know, it depends how big they are. If they're really tiny, you can use them whole, okay? Now, on the bottom, on the inside of the mold, we're going to make an overlapping, and you can blanch the squash if you want to. If you cut it really thin, you really don't have to. You can do it either way. I usually don't blanch it. I end up with better colors, I think, at the end. But if you blanch it, the squash, you just drop it in the boiling water and then right in the ice water. Just give it about 10 seconds in the boiling water. That's it. Excuse me. Okay, we'll cut some of the yellow. And what we're going to do is we're going to make overlapping shingled pattern on the inside bottom of the mold, which is what I'm going to do right now with the zucchini and the yellow squash. I'm going to press it right up against the peas. We're going to do the outside perimeter of the inside of the mold first, okay, with the squash. And we'll do another circle inside that when we get done. And I'm going to time elapse this. This is going to take me 3 or 4 minutes to put the squash in here, and then I'll come back and show you the finished product, okay? As you can see now, we have everything overlapping like shingles inside there. And you want to make sure that shingle overlapping effect is in there because that will affect your final look when you turn the mold out, okay? So that's what it looks like after you have the beans, the carrots, the peas, the butter, and the squashes in there, okay? Now we're going to begin the rest of the assembly process, which is fairly simple, okay? Which is mashed potatoes, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, more mashed potatoes, more cabbage, more cauliflower, more Brussels sprouts, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now, be right back. Get that camera back on that thing now. We're done with the remote aspect of the chartreuse. Okay, now for the final assembly. This is the hard part of making the vegetable chartreuse is over. The final assembly begins with a layer of mashed potatoes. Now I have potatoes here with the skin on that I seasoned with butter, salt, and pepper only. Now we're going to put a layer carefully on here, being careful not to move the squash in the process. You want to keep that squash in that position that it's in. Now this, once you get the first layer mashed in here, you're pretty much cementing this together then, you see? So make sure that as you lay the mashed potatoes against the green beans and carrots that they're exactly where you want them to be in there and they're nice and flat and flush. Now sometimes you'll turn one of these molds out. It doesn't come out exactly the way you want. A pea or two might fall or tumble, in which case you just pick that pea up and put it back where it belongs before you serve it, that's all. Now, it's starting to become easy and it's not so delicate anymore. See, now I can pick it up and show you. I got mashed potatoes in there. And I'm not going to go up the sides. We're going to build up the sides here slowly. So we're going to throw a few Brussels sprouts in here. Better yet, let's throw the cabbage leaves in there first. What's the matter with me? Let's trim the tough part, which is right here, of the cabbage leaf off, okay? And let's coat the inside of this with the cabbage leaf. Now let's hit it with some Brussels sprouts. And let's hit it with a little bit of cauliflower. And breaking them up in smaller pieces as we put them in there, the cauliflower. Now let's hit this with some salt and pepper. Now you don't have to have Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, but they are good, or broccoli, and broccoli is also on your ingredient list. These are nice, firm, heavy vegetables that work well. I got a little chopped dill, which is also not on the ingredient list, but you can put your fresh herbs right inside here if you want. And I would put a little bit of whole butter dotted around in here. Not too much, a little bit here and there, okay. Now we're gonna put a little bit more mashed. Now you can start to press this down a little bit more firmly as you put these next layers in. And let's get some more cabbage in there. This will probably serve 8 to 10 people. On the table as basically like a family style presentation. This should be the last of the cabbage right here. And I need some more mashed in a bowl, please, Louis. Another layer of cabbage. Now you see how that looks now? Getting higher and higher to the top of the mold. Now this is your last layer of stuff that's going in here now. Brussels sprouts. Cauliflower, break them up in smaller pieces. Cauliflower's cooked perfectly. More salt. Thank you. More pepper. More fresh dill. More butter. Butter, salt, and pepper does the trick. Now this item can be served, of course, with a butter sauce or a cheese sauce or a roasted red pepper sauce or a roasted garlic butter sauce and whoop, things like that. All right, we're going to put the final layer of mashed on here now. You see where we're going here now. We're almost there, too. Now you want to make sure that you are flat with the potatoes on the top, which I think we are. At this stage right here is when you want to cut your vegetables off, okay? Carefully. You want to make sure that you don't move the veg And you want to cut them nice and flat and straight. So they sit flat and straight after you turn this mold out, see? So you can probably envision making a miniature version of this in a, maybe a 1-pint mold. Same kind of mold, ceramic like this. This is a souffle mold. And serving them as an individual serving. Now don't forget, you could put meat and all kinds of stuff inside of here. I'm giving you the vegetarian version of the vegetable chartreuse, but this could be a chicken and vegetable chartreuse or a beef and vegetable chartreuse also. The ingredients that probably shouldn't change if you decide to modify the primary ingredients of this would be the carrots, the squash, the green beans, the mashed potatoes, and the cabbage. The other stuff is flexible in terms of what you put inside. But those are the primary things that hold this mold together.
Chef, if you used chicken or beef, would you have it pre-cooked?
You would pre-cook whatever you put in here, right? Because when you bake this, all you want to do is make this hot. That's it. Okay, now that looks pretty tight. That looks perfect. Now, what we're going to do before we bake this, you see how nice and clean that is? Now, this is the stage that you can make this mold the day before if you want, okay? You can plastic wrap it and then aluminum foil it before it goes in the oven. So we're going to put this in the fridge for about an hour and a half, and I'm going to come back. We're going to time-elapse an hour and a half. I'm going to come back, and we're going to pop this in the oven. I'll show you how to seal it up with the plastic wrap and the foil. Then we're going to time-elapse it again, and we're going to. So in the next 5 minutes, you're going to see this thing on a plate. Okay? So I'll be right back after this gets a chance to chill, which is right now. Okay, the chartreuse has been refrigerated for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and it's fairly cool now, which is perfect. You don't want it ice cold because then the heat has to penetrate the entire thing completely, and it takes longer, and it's a little bit harder, and it's, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have to cook it at a high temperature for a long time. So normally what I would do is get it cold, take it out so it's just cool, then wrap it and throw it inside the oven. But before I go to that stage, I want to make sure you know how to cut the carrot that went next to the green bean. So we're going to take a peeled carrot. We're going to make sure that we cut it above the size of the mold. Then I'm going to square the carrot off a little bit so that it's easier to cut. Okay? Now, I'm going to cut it into strips. So really they're like long boxes almost, you see? And now, there, see, the size of the green beans, which is what you're looking for. And that's how the carrots were cut prior to blanching them a little bit earlier, okay? Now, sealing up the mold and putting it in the oven, first we're going to take some plastic wrap and we're going to cover the mold with the plastic wrap. Then I'm going to take a sheet of foil and we're going to cover the foil on it. So the plastic wrap, which will seal it, moisture and the heat in it, and the foil will keep the plastic wrap from melting or burning during that process, okay? Now, at some point, you're going to have to be able to remove the foil to watch and see if there's bubbling butter around the edge, because that's how you're going to know that it's hot all the way through. So don't put the foil on in such a way so that you can't take it off. See how that sets right on there? Now I'm going to pop this in a 350-degree conventional oven, a regular oven, not a convection oven. And we're going to bake this until it's bubbling. And that's probably going to take about a half an hour, give or take, something like that, okay? So let's pop this in the oven directly on the rack. You do not need to put this item on a cookie sheet. prior to putting it in the oven. Now I'm going to be back in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. We're going to take it out. I'm going to show you the bubbling butter around the edge of that mold before we turn it out onto this tray. And we're going to find out if I know how to make one of these things in this video today. Okay, we'll be right back in about 45 minutes. All right, 40 minutes has elapsed. And the vegetable chartreuse has been in the oven for 40 minutes. I just pulled it out 30 seconds ago and set it up on top of this table. And you will see that the plastic wrap is still intact, but that this thing is hot. Now, the real question is, do I know how to make this? And is this going to come out of this mold, and is this going to be beautiful? Well, we don't know for sure, but we're going to find out right now. So, you remember all that work that went into this. All the laying those little peas and cutting all those carrots and shingling all that squash in there and sweating like a pig in the middle of all this and all that time. So let's see if it's worth it right now, okay? We're going to invert this onto a serving platter, and we're going to select a serving platter that's going to give you a little bit of space around the edge to put some garnishes or sauce. Now this one just makes it, okay? Now, we'll pull this cutting board down to the end, and we're going to turn this upside down like that. Now it should just come right off and everything should be perfect. So you better get a zoom down here, Richard. Get close in on this one now. Let's see how she looks. Carefully, carefully, carefully. Pull the mold off. Okay, what did we lose here? We lost a few peas, but that's it. That's not so bad. Now we'll show you just how to patch up those peas. Just take your peas, put them back in here. Why these peas got stuck, I don't know. But you're not going to unmold this in front of anybody anyway. So this is what you do if some of your peas get stuck. There was so much butter in the bottom of the mold because it was so hot, all the butter on the sides was running down before you even got a chance to finish making it. Look at that. But I think you got the general idea on how to do this. And without a doubt, every time I unmold one of these, there's a pea or two or 3 or 4 peas laying around somewhere in the mold that didn't come out when they were supposed to. But that's okay. And then every once in a while, every single pea comes out. Let me get just a few more peas here and we'll be good to go. Are you still zoomed in down there, Richard?
Yes, we are.
All righty. You see, of course, the quality of this item in terms of the, what do you call, the presentation value. Would this impress your mother-in-law? Would this impress your girlfriend? Would this impress your parents? Would this impress your children? Yes, it will. And we're just about there. A lot of peas didn't come out of this one. I wonder why that happened like that. You see, even in a cooking class, things don't come out perfect, but what makes this a good cooking lesson, this entire DVD series, is that inevitably, throughout your learning to cook, you always find little things that happen that need to be fixed. Learning how to fix your mistakes is what you do for the first 10 years in the kitchen. I said that to somebody once and they said, well, that's really encouraging. I really want to learn how to cook now. But the fact of the matter is, learning how to fix your mistakes is a natural process within the learning how to cook process. Because if you never made any mistakes, you probably would already know how to do this. Now we got a couple more peas to go here, and we'll be all set. I think we can go with this pea right here, and we'll be done. One more pea. Come on out of there. There we go. All righty. Now there, I believe, is something you might be willing to present to your friends. Wouldn't you say? Vegetable chartreuse, again, you can make this with chicken and beef and so on and so forth. Any selection that you want, keeping in mind that the carrot, the green beans, the peas, and the squash, and the mashed potatoes need to be part of this. This is what holds it together. This is the makeup of the chartreuse. You can replace the cauliflower or the Brussels sprouts and the cabbage leaves with something else if you'd like. Or use those in tandem with something else and just using less of those, okay? So there you have it. Have fun with your chartreuse, make it for the right moment, and enjoy it. I'm sure the people you make it for will.